Hello folks, Pastor Rocky Branch. Early on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday morning that is, much is going on around the country. Let's go back a long time ago when Jesus died and he was in the tomb. The disciples, of course, had to make a decision on what they were going to do, who they were going to believe, how they were going to act. You know, there was a group of women that came to the tomb very early in the morning. I think these women would be reasonably okay for us to say they were committed. They wanted to come to at least where Jesus was. You know, I've stood by a lot of people that lost loved ones, and they just didn't want to leave the casket. They wanted to stand right there. They just wanted to put their hand on the person that had passed away, their hand, even though it was cold and stiff. They still just wanted to put their hand on them. Or I've been in several situations where people wanted just to have a wake, where they'd sit all night. And when I was a kid, people used to bring folks into the home, and they would sit with them in the home. They just wanted to be around them. You know, they didn't want to leave them. Not that they didn't have faith or believe that they were in a better place. They just didn't want to leave the body. That's what they'd drawn attention to. That's what they knew about. That's what they loved. And no matter what size you are, you know, it's who you are inside that makes the difference. But we as people get attached to what you look like. And I think these ladies were committed. I think they wanted to come to just be where Jesus was. They had their hearts broken. They were in distress. They just wanted to come to the last place that they knew that they had seen him. Well, the disciples, I think, they were complacent. You know, the disciples were at home, and the women came back and told them that the Lord had risen, and they really didn't even believe the women when they said that. And I think the disciples that should have been the most committed were a little bit complacent, not even remembering what the Lord said in action. Now, we remember a lot of things, but now hear me. Sometimes we remember things just because we remember them. They happened, yeah, I know that sort of thing. But when you remember to action, then you're not complacent. When you just remember and say, yeah, I know about that, but when you throw that but in there, we get in trouble. I think the complacency of the disciples robbed them of an additional victory they would have had. Now, they had victory because they came to the tomb. They saw Jesus had resurrected. He came and spoke to them. And they had that victory of seeing the Lord and watching the Lord and being in fellowship with the Lord. But they didn't have what the ladies had. The ladies had a victory that was committed. I mean, they believed that they needed to get close to where Jesus was, and they were willing to do whatever they could. Now, the Sabbath, of course, they could not get out until the Sabbath breaking of the day. So when that was over, the first thing they did was they hustled out to the tomb because they wanted to see the place where Jesus was. Now, the disciples, of course, being back at their home, missed this opportunity. The Bible says in Matthew, the angel was there, and the angel said, "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" You know, sometimes we do that. Now, please hear me. Sometimes we do this. In fact, I know people right now that haven't got over the fact that a loved one has passed away. And it's very difficult to get over, by the way, because we lose that person that we love. We don't want to go on. We don't want to feel like life has anything to do with us anymore. We've got such a void in our lives. But the angel said something important to the women. Why seek the living among the dead? I've had situations where people have gone to cemeteries and just wouldn't leave the cemetery. I mean, months later, sometimes years later. They just go and they get trouble. They'll go to the cemetery and they'll go where the loved one is passed and they'll talk to the loved one, or at least attempt to talk to the loved one, because they want so bad to be connected with that person again. Well, Jesus Christ has made it possible for all of us to be connected with them, and more importantly, with him. And he got up. And the reason he got up is that you and I can get up. And whatever you face today, whatever problem you have today, whatever's going on in your life today, I've got good news. It's over with. Jesus has made a way. In fact, let's go emphatic with it. Jesus has made the way. There's no question that Jesus has made the way for you. So I want to encourage you today that whatever's going on in your life, be of good cheer. He is overcome. He got up, and the victory is his. Therefore, makes the victory ours. God bless you. Happy Easter. We love you. And goodbye.